After last night's shocking conclusion to WWE Monday Night Raw, the question is being raised once again, are we about to see several new WWE superstars join alliance with the likes of Big Bronson Reed, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman in the Vision? In this countdown video, we're going to let you know 5 possible new additions, new members of the Vision on Monday Night Raw. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And in this countdown video, we're going to be discussing possible additions to the Vision. We're into November now. That means Survivor Series, and that means War Games. And there have been several reports suggesting that the men's War Games match this year could be set to feature a team led by WWE World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk and the OTC Roman Reigns against the Vision. Now, we know that the Vision was once led by Seth Rollins. That was prior to him getting injured and being forced to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship and the Vision turning on him. Now that only leaves Big Bronson Reed, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman as the active members. But that's not enough for a War Games match. So could we be set to see several new additions to the Vision? We're going to let you know 5 possible names that could be set to join the likes of Reed, Breakker, and Heyman. Let's get into the first name, with the obvious one being Logan Paul. Of course, last night's episode of WWE Monday Night Raw saw the sort of double swerve, didn't it? Initially, it looked like Logan Paul had maybe turned into a babyface. He saved WWE World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk, and it looked like he was going to be teaming up with the good guys. I guess we should have known. This is Logan Paul after all. He doesn't do anything that a babyface would do. He is a heel at heart. Later on in the program, he turns on CM Punk. It looks like the Vision are going to attack the World Heavyweight Champion. Logan Paul's there. Logan Paul, though, knocks out CM Punk with the brass knucks with one lucky shot. He then, shockingly, hands his brass knuckles over to Paul Heyman. Now, I suppose the big sort of confusing element when it comes to all of these names on this list is that as we get closer to Survivor Series and as we get closer to War Games, what constitutes an official member of the Vision? Is Logan Paul going to be affiliated with Heyman, with Breakker, with Reed moving forward? Is he just going to be a kind of, I guess, distant relative of the group where he's not an official member, he's a bit of an unofficial member? Sometimes he teams with them, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, that kind of scenario. That's entirely possible. But someone like Logan Paul could work in the Vision. I've mentioned this several times. Just because you're in a faction, that doesn't mean you have to be on WWE television every single week. Of course, Logan Paul is a little bit more than a part-time WWE superstar. I mean, you have people that have lighter schedules than the Maverick. You know, the likes of Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns or others only appear very infrequently on WWE television. Logan Paul appears a little bit more frequently, not much more. He's certainly not making towns when WWE does have live events, but he's regularly featured on WWE television. He appears at quite a few different PR leads, and he's has several high-profile matches. He doesn't really need a mouthpiece in someone like Paul Heyman, but I think Logan Paul being in a faction, it leads to quite a few interesting possibilities. I mean, just how long can Logan Paul coexist with anyone? And I know that's the old pro wrestling trope. Can they coexist? You know, strange bedfellows and all that. But I think Heyman being affiliated with Logan Paul's platform that he has with all of his projects, his podcasts, his YouTube channel, that could be a really interesting piece of business by WWE, particularly when it comes to someone like Bron Breakker, who we know that WWE and Paul Triple H are grooming to really be the next big breakout star in the company, the next big face of WWE after Cody Rhodes. So maybe having Bron Breakker affiliated with someone that has the reach of Logan Paul is very, very interesting. And also, with having someone like Paul Heyman, who's going to be at most television, he can do the same thing he did with Roman Reigns when he was affiliated with him, which is he can go out, he can cut promos, he can tell the world how great Logan Paul is. And because Logan Paul is this top-tier celebrity influencer and businessman, he's not going to make the small towns. He'll come when it matters, and he'll come when it's important, and he's going to get paid. And maybe that's something that Paul Heyman can help facilitate. So we saw it last night on Raw. We saw Logan Paul hand those brass knuckles to Heyman, seemingly pledging his allegiance to the Vision. Is he going to be a full-time member? Well, at least for the foreseeable future, it would certainly appear so. The Maverick is aligned with Breakker, Heyman, and Reed. And before we move on to the next name on this countdown list, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes, of course, NordVPN. You can see them right there in the sidebar. You can get up to 77% off plus 3 months extra free. And all you have to do is scan the QR code that you can see right there in the sidebar. You can use our custom link. That's nordvpn.com/WN365. Once again, nordvpn.com/WN365. And I mentioned Survivor Series coming up at the end of this month. Of course, we're already starting to begin the John Cena tournament to find out who's going to be Cena's final opponent at Saturday Night's Main Event next month. And you can watch Survivor Series on Netflix as part of your Netflix subscription. You can watch Saturday Night's Main Event for free next month. All you have to do is get a VPN, change your location to a territory like here in the UK, where we get to watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE PLEs, no ESPN, NXT PLEs, no Peacock, as part of our Netflix subscription, plus archive content. In addition to that, Saturday Night's Main Event, we watch it for free on YouTube. That's right, a historic match next month. John Cena, his final pro wrestling match ever, his final match for WWE. You could watch it for free on YouTube. All you have to do is get a VPN, get it set up, get it ready. You can save yourself some money and you can support this channel in the process. Your support is really appreciated. Let's move on to the next name on this list, Tony D'Angelo. Just what is going on with Tony D? Well, that is a really good question. We haven't seen Tony D'Angelo since the summer. I think the last time we saw him was around July. Now, he has appeared at a couple of NXT live events, but that hasn't been for quite some time. Now, he was seemingly written off NXT television the same way that a lot of characters involved in the D'Angelo family and the D'Angelo storylines across the several years he's been involved in that brand have been written off television, which is kind of, they've been killed off. Yeah, the likes of Pretty Deadly and other former members of the D'Angelo family, if they were being let go from the company, Pretty Deadly getting called up to the main roster, of course, but other people, when they've been let go, they've just been killed off, and that's how they've done it. And you know, they're going with very Sopranos-esque, I guess, writing off, the same way that, of course, this whole character is, you know, very much based on Tony Soprano and the Soprano family. So when he was written off of that episode of NXT, in a very similar way to how the Sopranos ended, where, you know, he's sitting at a table at a restaurant and then it just suddenly cuts to black, similar to how the Sopranos ended, and people thought it was something wrong with their cable or their television or something along those lines. People thought, well, okay, that's the end of the Tony D'Angelo character, and he's going to get called up to the main roster soon. We had actually heard that around WrestleMania time, before and after WrestleMania, that Tony D'Angelo was going to be getting called up to the main roster soon. And when he did get called up to the main roster, he was going to have some tweaks, some alterations to his character, but it was still going to be this sort of mob-esque character. But again, we haven't seen him since July, and there's been a lot of back and forth reporting. Some suggested that actually he requested some time off, and he actually said that it wasn't injury related, and he requested some time off. But then since those reports came out, he did appear at a couple of live events, so there's still a lot of confusion. Frankly, what is there left for him to do in NXT? I mean, I guess win the NXT championship, but everything else he's done, North American champion, tag team champion, Heritage Cup, he's been with the brand since 2021. We're going back to NXT 2.0, and the rest of, you know, the NXT 2.0 stars are all largely either on the main roster or gone at this point. So you would feel like Tony D'Angelo is the name that really needs to be up on the main roster. Could he fit into the vision? Absolutely, he could, particularly when you come and think about, you know, the future of WWE. Tony D'Angelo, an NXT superstar, could be considered the future of the company. So Tony D, I think, unless he's going to be sticking around in NXT and going for the NXT Championship, a spot in the vision could be a perfect way to debut on the main roster. Swapping one family for another, I think it makes a lot of sense. Let's move on and talk about Ethan Page, of course, the reigning NXT North American champion. Ethan Page, I mean, like I say about Tony D'Angelo, what is there really left for Ethan Page to do in NXT, right? He's 36 years of age. I mean, it felt like his stay in NXT should be a relatively short one, given his experience. I mean, he's got close to 2 decades, I think, worth of experience at this point. even though he's 36. I mean, he started very, very young. He's run his own company in Canada. Of course, he's very successful during his time in TNA/Impact Wrestling in the North, and then he goes to AEW. Mixed success there, doesn't really work out. Ever since arriving in NXT in 2024, he has had huge success, winning the NXT Championship almost immediately. His very first match, he was in the main event of a PLE. Then, not long after, they actually wins the NXT Championship. Then, he's the NXT North American Champion, which he's got a whole Canadian gimmick going on right now. He's actually a champion in AAA as well. He's mixed tag team champion along with Chelsea Green. That might be the one thing that maybe prevents him from getting called up to the main roster along with the Vision, is that he's got this thing going on with Chelsea Green right now that's going across companies at this point. It's happened in NXT. They had several mixed tag team matches in NXT. Now it's branching out to AAA as well. Maybe they'll want to call them that act up together. I know, of course, Chelsea Green's already on the main roster, but it could be something where he's involved with her on SmackDown. So he certainly proved he's more than just a promo, and I think he could be someone that does get called up, is a member of the Vision. Yeah, he's going to take quite a few pinfalls, but he can be someone who can be a bit of a clown, a bit of a buffoon, but also he can then do things seriously. He can then also turn it on at different points and become vicious, and maybe he's a little bit of experience that the group needs. So I think Ethan Page could be a perfect fit if he does get called up to the main roster to be involved in the Vision, and someone that could easily do a War Games match and have zero problem with that as well. Next up, speaking of NXT, what about former NXT champion and former TNA World Champion and former NXT North American Champion Trick Williams? He's really been sort of the face of NXT, really, hasn't he, ever since Carmelo Hayes left the brand? And I mentioned this about several names on this list, but what is there really left for Trick Williams to do? He's been a sidekick. He's been a tag team partner. He's been a babyface, face of the brand. He's been a heel. He's been a affiliate company's world champion. He has really done it all. And when I do think about the Vision and I think about, okay, what is this group's purpose? When you talk, obviously, about Seth Rollins, he was always talking about the future of the business. And I don't really think the sort of manifesto of the faction has really changed all that much despite Rollins' departure and his injury. I think it's still the same. I think it's the same scenario, which is it's about the future of the company. It's about having these wrestlers, these superstars in there that are going to be the next big stars for the next 10, 15 years in WWE and main eventing WrestleMania, kind of a Evolution-esque faction. And I think WWE would see Trick Williams the same way, someone that has got a really bright future. He's someone that clearly they're very invested in. That's why he's held these world championships. The reason why he's been in NXT maybe a little bit longer is because he was green. You know, it's very clear to see when he was with Carmelo Hayes, he had this raw potential, no doubt about that. But he was someone whereby, look, he didn't have a lot of pro wrestling experience, right? He's only been doing this, I think he really started sort of 2018. He sent his sort of tape over to WWE. This was actually to make the XFL, and WWE reached out to him to try out, wrestling and all that kind of stuff. So he's not only been doing this for, I think, about 4 or 5 years, something like that. And it's taken him a while to sort of find himself, and his in-ring certainly has improved, no doubt about that. So when I think about the Vision and really the idea of the group, I think Trick Williams fits perfectly into that. Someone that's young. I think he's only 31. He's still got plenty of years left in the business. He's a great talker. He's got a great look, and I think he fits perfectly in that faction. And I think someone like Paul Heyman, who's always got his eyes around WWE and pro wrestling for that matter, about who's going to be the future of the industry, I think Trick Williams absolutely can fit into that category. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if one of the new recruits for Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed, and of course Bron Breakker is none other than Trick Williams, the former NXT and TNA World Champion. And finally, what about Brock Lesnar? Now, previously, I think I did a video about new members of the Vision right after the group was formed. I think it was around sort of WrestleMania time, and I brought up Brock Lesnar's name, and at the time, that was absolutely no way. Brock's not coming back to WWE. Well, a lot's happened since then, hasn't it? Since then, indeed, the Beast Incarnate is back, despite his involvement in that lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE from ex-WWE employee Janelle Grant. Now, it must be stated, Lesnar is not a defendant. He has been explicitly named in it, but he is not a defendant. He is not actively being sued by Miss Grant, but he is named in that. But despite the controversy, WWE have brought him back, and they've been presenting him like they presented him before, which is the Beast incarnate. They had him face John Cena in a singles match for the first time in over a decade at WrestlePalooza, and Brock Lesnar's return match, and it was very similar to their match at SummerSlam over a decade earlier, whereby Brock squashed him, and then, like Brock Lesnar does, he disappeared, and we don't know when we're going to see Brock Lesnar next. He's been rumored and reported to possibly be involved in this Team Vision at Survivor Series in the War Games match, and I guess the thought of seeing Brock Lesnar in a War Games match is pretty exciting, a match he's never been in during his WWE career. That's interesting, and frankly, they've already planted the seeds that Brock and Heyman are going to be working together again. When Brock made his return match at WrestlePalooza against John Cena, who introduced him? It was Paul Heyman. And it was, I think, one of the SmackDown priors when Lesnar was back. He bumped into Paul Heyman backstage, said, "We need to have a talk." Indeed, they did. And next thing you know, Heyman's introducing him. Now, on a episode of SmackDown prior to Crown Jewel, there was this back and forth, I think it was an episode of Raw actually, between Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes brought up the fact that Paul Heyman was introducing Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins implied that he gave his okay, and it was all part of a bigger plan. And maybe the bigger plan is that Brock Lesnar, maybe a bit like Logan Paul, he's not going to be a member, because Brock being part of a faction is just something he's never done, which is maybe why it's exciting. But maybe Brock Lesnar could be one of those people, a bit like Logan Paul, that whilst he's not an actual member of the faction, whilst he's not an actual member of the Vision, he's a loose affiliate. He's someone that is tied with Heyman. Heyman's had multiple clients at different points. There was a time prior to them feuding that Heyman was the advocate of Brock Lesnar, and he was also the best friend of CM Punk. It's kind of the Bobby the Brain Heenan principle, isn't it? That you can have different members of your Heenan family, if you will. It doesn't mean they have to all get along or have to work together. Occasionally they can come together, but at different points they're just separate clients for separate purposes. And maybe that's what Brock Lesnar is going to have. Although I do think that the exciting thing when it comes to pro wrestling is always doing something new, something that hasn't happened before. And I think Brock Lesnar being involved in the faction, whilst it seems odd, maybe it's new, maybe it's different, maybe it's exactly what Brock Lesnar and WWE need. So there you go. There are 5 possible new additions to the Vision on WWE Monday Night Raw as we get closer to Survivor Series and closer to War Games. What are your thoughts? Let me know your reactions, your opinions, your hot takes as always in the comment section below. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.